Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the BirDie Golf Club podcast. This week, I've got a very, very special guest. I have Scott Fawcett, who created the Decade Golf System. You may have seen Scott on sort of many different podcasts over the years. Most recently, he appeared in a YouTube video with Rick Shields, where Rick played his best golf using the course management strategy that Scott came up with. Tour pros, not tour pros, tour pros such as Will Zalatoris have used it. Bryson DeChambeau has spoken of his use of it. Keith Mitchell, who played really well this weekend, and there's a few others as well that Scott mentions throughout the podcast that have benefited from his course management system. His goal is to basically put you inside put him, sorry, inside your head, which sounds quite scary, but it'll be fine. It'll be fine. So I hope you enjoyed this episode with Scott. He was fantastic with his time, spoke through the system. I hope I covered all the points I wanted to. Always difficult to know, but would love to hear your feedback as always. Leave a comment on what you think of the interview with Scott and what kind of questions you would have liked to have put to him. I'm sure he loves getting in the comments. So I'm sure he will keep an eye out for it and sort of respond to you. So make sure to leave Scott some comments. Anyway, I'm going to stop rambling on. Let's get on to our episode with Scott Fawcett from Decade Golf. How is everything going, Scott? Because you mentioned you had some knee surgery that you've been recovering from. I'm pretty sure listeners that follow you on Instagram would have been seeing your sort of recovery from that and, your journey on that. How have you found that?
It's been great, honestly. I actually played golf last week, and when I finished, it was like I kind of recognized nothing on my body hurts. I mean, it was pretty well. I mean, I've got my old guy stiffness, but like there was no pain. It was honestly pretty cool because it's been a rough. I mean, honestly, it's really what started Decade. Going back to 2013, I caught a root on the second hole of the US Mid-Am, and that's what first jacked my right elbow up, which
Oh, no
is
way.
what I got a cortisone shot for the following year before the
Right.
Texas Amateur, which is what the guy screwed up, which is the only reason that I caddied for Zalatoris. So literally going back 12 years, it's just kind of been something. So I've had both elbows operated on, something on my neck, and now left knee surgery, but everything's great. And I mean, the only thing I would tell people listening at home is overdo your rehab. And I shouldn't even say that
Mm.
because then people go too crazy on it. But find yourself a place that helps whatever professional athlete, team that's around you with their rehab. I went to a place that handles a lot of the Dallas Cowboys and does NFL combines and just you get in that environment even as a 51-year-old who knows I can't compete with those younger guys, but you try harder. I mean, there's just
Yeah.
no two ways about it. You try harder when you're in that environment. And some of the stuff they had me doing with these basically like blood pressure cuffs
Hmm.
that it's like a tourniquet, basically just completely cuts off the blood. You put it on at the top of your thigh, and it sucks every bit as much as it sounds like it does.
Yeah.
It just completely cuts off the blood. Your leg is swollen and purple, and you do all of your workout with that for about 10 minutes, and then you take it off, and the blood comes rushing back in. I'm trusting the science they said is solid because you wouldn't do this like if it might be helpful. You wouldn't do it for that. Like
Okay.
this helps. So
Yeah.
it's good. So crush your rehab, make sure the people you're doing know what they're doing, and then almost as important, get in an environment with other people that are trying to crush it.
Yeah. So that sort of falls in the same lines as like compression sleeves, but almost like a super severe version of that, I'm guessing. Is that the sort of idea
No,
that,
I mean a compression sleeve is just like tight. I mean,
yeah,
I'm
this
literally talking
is,
about, like when you do your blood pressure
yeah,
and
yeah,
it takes it all the way up to the top. And it
yeah.
usually is inflating. Like if your blood pressure's in range 120 over 80, that thing normally inflates to like 160 before it starts backing
Mhm.
off. This thing takes it to like 210 and then just
Oh,
stays there.
And you've
I
got to
mean,
work out with that on.
and you work out with that on. You've got basically this thing you're carrying. I mean, you literally can't even walk. You're like got this thing and you're like swinging your leg along with it. I mean, it sucks so
And
much.
you're
It
having
was
to tell
unbelievable.
yourself that entire time, this is good for me. This is going to be good
Yeah,
for
but I
me.
mean, again, once you've put that thing on and all the NFL guys that are around you know what you're doing,
Yeah.
granted, I took it off well short of what they wanted me to, just in case the guy happens to be listening. Like, I trust me, I admitted I was a wimp on it, but I did do it.
You
Not like
did
an
it.
NFL guy would, but I did do it.
And you've been able to get back out on the golf course. I've been seeing you've been playing some tournaments again,
Yeah,
getting back into the swing of things with that, and that's been going well.
it's been going. It's funny is I've been playing pretty good, like in non-tournament rounds,
Hmm.
and I've only had a tournament round or two. Notably the U.S. Senior Open qualifier, which didn't go well, but the golf course was just such a muddy disaster. The USGA
I
has
saw
just
some
completely
pictures. Yeah.
lost. They've completely lost the plot on
Hmm.
we're playing it down no matter the conditions. The brass, they don't see that the high up CEOs don't see how bad the local courses have gotten. And I understand,
Hmm.
like Texas Golf Association, it's not on them. They have a maximum that they can afford to pay, 2,500, 3,500 a day. And so no courses, they're all too busy these days. Like you can't talk an
Hmm.
owner, hey, we're going to give up 8 or 10,000 in revenue so we can host a US Open local. Nobody cares about that anymore. So it's a really bad spot where the USGA themselves need to step up and float a little more money in. I mean,
Yeah.
you got to meet somewhere in the middle from we could have our tee sheet full at 150 versus, $25 a head. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just it's a non-starter and these courses need rest on their off days and it's a bad spot and the USGA just okay, cool. We can't get good courses right now. We're in a weird golf time where there's too
Hmm.
much play, too expensive. So we need to be open-minded to playing the ball up. And again, I am the biggest proponent of playing it down everywhere, even in divots. I am on team you cannot define a divot, so that's
Hmm.
just not an option. But there's just times where if you saw my post on Instagram, like it was just a joke. Like literally,
Yeah, I
I
saw
had
that.
golf ball size hunks of mud on my
Hmm.
golf ball.
Yeah.
And I'm not exaggerating there. One of them was I literally had to make impact with a mud spot the size of a golf ball on the back of my golf ball. I'm like,
Yeah.
never done this before. Let's just take a swing and see what happens. And I will say it actually came out way better than I expected. I
I
mean,
bet you had to take the
it
data
wasn't the
from that.
worst. Yeah, it wasn't the worst shot I could have imagined. I mean, it certainly wasn't what I was hoping for from 110 in the fairway, but
Yeah. It's one of those situations where you hope logic kind of prevails, because that isn't one, it's not good for the athletes that are playing, for the people that are playing, but it's also not a good spectacle either for anyone watching because you're kind of
yeah, that's
taking skill out of the game and just making it based on rules which are arbitrary in that sense when it comes to those moments because that's not golf. You're not playing
well, I
golf
mean,
then, are
again,
you?
if you see that someone posted that there's a U.S. Open local going on today that I think they had 7 former PGA Tour winners and Tony Romo's in it.
Hmm.
Uh, and the golf course is just a disaster. I mean,
Hmm.
it's just the one that we played, we had already moved it from another course because its greens got hail damage.
Hmm.
And so they moved it to this one kind of last second. The week of the Byron Nelson was the same week here. We had several inches of rain almost every day for like 4 days in a row.
Hmm.
And the course was in pretty bad shape to begin with. I mean, it's just again, I could
Yeah.
go on and on and on. I have a very bad personal history and experience with any USGA event I've played in. I think I've played in like 4 or 5 US Mid-Ams,
Hmm.
US Open, US Senior Open, and 100% of them have had something ridiculous by the officials happen. And it's like, guys, just use your brain. Like you say, use a little logic here. It's very frustrating because they do throw great events and they are our national championships.
Hmm.
And to just go into it knowing it's going to be confrontational in some form or fashion with the people running it is just it's just sad, honestly.
Yeah, it's not the ideal environment to head into, and I'm
No,
sorry that I've got you really upset at the start of this podcast, which
I'm
wasn't which
good.
wasn't my aim, wasn't my aim. But Scott, it's great for you to join me, and I mean, I've sort of seen the decade system over the past, I don't know, maybe you started when what year did it actually start in for you?
I created it in 2013 and 14.
Okay.
And then 2014 was when I mean, I was going to play in the Texas Amateur myself. And that's when I got what happened with my arm is the guy gave me a cortisone shot a couple weeks before the tournament to try to
Hmm.
help with the issues I was having. And he actually paralyzed my hand for a couple days. Obviously, it came back to life. Yay me. But he told me, he's like, I wouldn't play any golf for like 3 or 4 months while we let the inflammation and just everything settle down in there, which is the only reason Zalatoris was just a high school golfer at my home course that I'd played, with since he was 9.
Hmm.
And so that's the whole reason I called him. I'm like, look, man, here's what I did. We met and had some lunch, and I walked him through everything that I had created. And I just said, let me caddy for you at the state am. And if you just do what I tell you to do, like, I see no reason why. I mean, you hit the ball so good. I don't care how
Yeah.
sketchy your putting is. I don't see any reason why you shouldn't just be crushing amateur golf. And he went and won by 4. And I was like, wow, I actually didn't expect that to happen. But it was just so simple. I mean, again, it's really interesting when I do think what I created with Decade is really cool. It fills a void in the game that I don't even think we all realized was there. But as I was out there caddying for him, I mean, again, it's just so lucky. If I had been playing myself, I would have been like 6 or 7 holes into it and been like, this is so stupid. I can play way more aggressive than this. But
Hmm.
it's the removing of the emotional attachment to outcome and hitting the shots that
Hmm.
allowed me with just perfect clarity. I mean, because even through like 6 holes with Will, I'm like, this is dumb. He's hit 7 straight shots exactly where I told him to hit it, and he's 1 under. I feel like he'd be like 3 if he was aiming at every flag. Now, what I will say is, I was just judging them based on directional.
Hmm.
And with what I now know about distance control, yeah, he was hitting him right where he was pointed, but the odds of them all having been the right distance are pretty slim. And so instead of having an 18 footer, he might have had like a 14 footer, and he probably would have two putted both of them. Like, but
Yeah.
since I wasn't playing myself, I was just like, let's just run this out and see what happens. He shoots 67, and I'm driving home though. I'm thinking, feel like he would have shot lower if he played more
Sure.
aggressively.
Yeah.
But the next day we came out, he had the lead, and he was a nervous disaster, and he played awful and shot 70. And I was
Right.
like, that would have been 78 for sure if I
Yeah.
weren't here, because the wheels would have been coming off. He would have been starting to press to try to get things back, and it would have been a total implosion. And I'll give the kid all the credit in the world. As it wasn't going well, I just kept talking him off the ledge, just like, dude, all I need from you is 12 seconds of attention to hit the shot, and then you can go right back to pouting and being mad. I just need 12-second bursts from you, man. And we got it around, like I say, he winds up winning by 4. And that was when the light bulb went off that I was like, that's different. I
Yeah.
mean, so much so that I originally, a few months later, whenever I was, the SMU coaches who told me, like, you've got a product here to make if you want. And originally, when I started thinking about it, I bought the domains, beyourown.caddy.com, because
Hmm.
that was the direction I was going to take it was, man, just caddying for this kid. The stuff I was saying to him is what we should all say to ourselves,
Yeah.
except we're lunatics, so we
Yeah.
don't. I mean, that's the
We
Rick
we
Shields
all
video that
focus
we
on the
just.
negative, don't we? And like, could have been if we'd had the right bounce and all these things. Whereas you're saying that that ability to remove yourself from the situation that you'd created through being the caddy with a system in place meant that his worst golf wasn't anywhere near as bad as what it could have been on that day.
No, no. I mean, it just what's the best decision I can make here objectively if I'm not
Hmm.
worried about outcome or results or where I stand a par or a cut line or anything? What's the best decision right here? Because that's what we need. That's, I mean, quite literally the definition of strategy in course
Yeah.
management is where you stand a par is relevant for what this decision is.
Yeah.
And it's just so interesting how hard it is to do that, especially the younger you are. I always refer to junior golfers and college golfers just because that's who I really like am emotionally tied to helping. But even your 32-year-old, 6 handicap, we just get out there and just start reeling from the emotional roller coaster that golf is, whether it's good or bad. We've got our career round going. We're in
Hmm.
16 fairway. We're 2 under. Oh my God, how can I get this to the house? Let's just make a clean decision.
Yeah.
Or I'm 9 over and I want to break 80 because it's embarrassing not break 80 at my handicap. what's the best decision we can make? I mean, that's just running that script over and over and over again.
Yeah, that just sounds like you sort of know me as well. Well, that sort of last sentence just.
You look like a human. You may not be, but you do look like a human. So we've met.
Yeah, I mean that's literally me all over. Just I just want to break 80 this year. And I've been aware of the decade system. I remember sort of watching it back when you were doing things with like Frankie Borelli, when you're doing the full play sort of video with him. And then I remember you mainly from sort of like Mark Crossfield, and everything you were saying made sense. And the fact that people didn't like it
Oh,
makes it even more sort of attractive to me as a proposition. Because generally, I relate this to when it comes to anything to do with fitness or anything to do with sort of lifestyle. If it's hard to do, it's probably really good for you. And I think Decade sort of epitomizes that for golf, right? Because the hardest thing to do in golf is to aim away from pins sometimes, or to be realistic with yourself of what is your driver dispersion actually like, and
well,
is
I
that
got
the right
kind of
play?
lucky that as once I decided I'm a huge Tony Robbins nerd fan, and like
Hmm.
everything with Tony is some sort of a 6 or 7 step acronym. And
Hmm.
so after I caddied, after Will won the Texas Amateur, I caddied for him when he won the U.S. Junior. And then that's when the SMU coach came up to me afterwards, and he's like, "I got this kid named Bryson DeChambeau who's a world beater, but I can't get him to think at all. And could you make this into a seminar to come teach it to him?" And so then that's when I shifted gears. The point of why I'm bringing this up is I shifted gears to creating an acronym. And
Hmm.
I was trying to say we're going to take a decade off your learning curve, but that first E stands for expectations. And
Hmm.
I would say, really lucky. I got really lucky. That is the first word I chose, and it worked perfectly, which I've now heard from people who have made acronyms before. They're like, dude, that doesn't happen. This is just more information that this is a simulation because if that word didn't work, you would have spent the next 6 months trying to find one. I'm like, I guarantee I literally created the acronym, I bet you in under 3 minutes.
Right.
And they're like,
Yeah.
that takes months sometimes. Anyways, the
Meant to
expectation,
be.
like the further I've gotten into this over 10 years, that's everything. And what I
Hmm.
started to bring up earlier was that Rick Shields just released the video that I did with him in Florida a week or so ago. And that's just the entire video is just shot after shot. Like, what are we thinking here? I mean, on number one, I hate this shot. Like, as he's walking into it, I hate
Oh,
this
it's
shot. Hey,
crazy.
whoa, whoa,
It's
whoa. Let's
crazy.
back off. He gets
Yeah.
it, he's a few under, and I can tell we've got a 7 iron into a par five. What are you thinking? I'm thinking about making eagle and getting to five. And I'm like, dude, whether it's good or bad, we all have these insane
Yeah.
expectations and really just understanding we want to ratchet those down. And this is where it's hard because people are, you're trying to get everybody to play zombie golf. I'm like, well, that would technically be optimal. I
Yeah.
agree it's not necessarily that fun, but somewhere between I'm a total brainless lunatic and I'm a zombie just running a script over and over again, somewhere in there, probably a little closer to the zombie side is where we want to be.
Yeah, I'm gonna say because if for most amateur golfers out there, if you went out and parred every single hole, you've had the greatest round of your life, right? But that would be to most people, oh, not even one birdie on the scorecard. It's like no, like that would be unbelievable. That's beyond any expectation. But it could appear that you've been boring whilst doing that. And watching that video with Rick was interesting because he can be frustrating to watch sometimes because he sort of I think he does it for effect with obviously the video
Sure.
and everything as well, right? Like here we go. I'm the greatest putter in the world. I'm gonna hold this one out. We know how the YouTube algorithm works, with that sort of stuff. But you just see it just falls down in front of him. He put in a really good round together and then goes for the hero shot and it all falls apart. And it was really interesting watching you just reel him back in and just say, hey, like here we get 25, 30 foot, we're happy because we're
Yeah.
two putting, we're walking away.
And again, it's so interesting. It's so interesting when I say stop trying to make putts or stop trying to make birdies. People just are like, they just automatically think, well, then I'm not going to make a single putt. If I'm not trying to make it, how will it go in? Like
Yeah.
magic? Honestly, like at the end of the day, magic. Anything that's outside of 10 feet has like a 30% make rate tops for a tour player. I
Mm.
mean, like literally 12 feet is 32%. So, like,
Wow.
yeah, if it goes in, it's kind of magic. And what you have to understand is, just lagging the ball towards the hole's going to accidentally jump in the way of a few of them,
Hmm.
whether you're trying to make it or not. But we're really trying to spend, again, especially from outside 15, maybe 20 feet, dude, we're just trying to optimize the length of our second putt. And again, so much of this comes back to just what realistic good expectations are and allowing then the math to just run its course.
And how did you find, because I noticed on your website, obviously Bryson that you'd mentioned, how do you find, how quickly do these players adapt to your system? So how, if you know what I mean by that, because obviously it can be difficult for them if they've been playing junior golf for a long time and they're a very good player. Can it be really, is it a slow process or do they generally pick up on it quite quickly?
Tour players, it's almost immediate. I
Right.
mean, it is. If you, if I I've on purpose never looked at how sports gambling works. First of all, the PGA Tour makes us sign ethics clauses that we will not be involved in gambling. So, but even if I didn't, like it would be stunning how consistently when I talk to somebody, and I know this is going to sound like the most arrogant taking credit for them thing in the world, but like it's unbelievable how consistently that person plays well immediately. I
Right.
mean, and I'm literally talking immediately. I've had several people win the first week we worked together.
Right.
And I mean, it's just, and so the guys at the tour level, I'm basically telling them what they intuitively know, but it
Yeah.
allows them to commit to it better.
Hmm.
And so that's where a guy that like Stuart Sink, he literally won the first week after buying the app out of the App Store. He literally fired his caddy, was going to have his son caddy for him, bought the app out of the App Store, told his son to learn it and then teach it to him. The next week he won in Napa for his first win in 12 years. Won 6 weeks,
Wow.
6 months later again in Harbor Town. And exactly what he said, he's like, it just took all of the stuff that I used to kind of be confused about,
Hmm.
and it's like I know that Stewart Sink golf is I think is exactly what he said. Like it just
Yeah.
allowed me to then commit to it better. And that's a very consistent thing with people who've made it to the highest level. Like they're like, I know that's right. Like, and they
Yeah.
can commit to it quickly. Now let's take it down to Corn Ferry or mini tour players. They go out thinking I've got to shoot 25 under every week to win. Well, that course by definition has shorter par fives, shorter par fours. It's not that we have to go it's not that we have to play amazing. You have to play the same level of golf to win at 25 under or two over. Like you just have
Hmm.
to beat the field, which it's literally the same quality of golf. It's just an easier course. But those guys are more resistant because they hear me say, stop trying to make birdies. Well, how am I going to make 25 of them?
Right.
And now we drop it all the way back to college golfers, and they're in that final stages of getting a prefrontal cortex and a functioning brain. And they're certainly more challenging. And then you go all the way back to high school golfers, and they're just completely clueless. But what I will say is with those high school, especially, and then even college players, is rather than them just being out there flying blind, they're going
Mm.
to watch all the videos and they're going to go out there and do the same dumb thing as though they didn't even watch a single video. But that information is in them somewhere.
Hmm.
And if they can be honest and reflective after the round, be like, man, I knew that was wrong on three. My gut was already telling me it. So you're going to learn a lot faster. And that's where those people really start removing that decade off of their learning curve is in post analysis, which I'm a big proponent of meditation. I think that, again, this is all coming with the caveat of we're trying to play our best golf. I'm not
Yeah.
I'm not your guy if you just want to stay a nine handicap and drink beer. And what do I want to get better for? Then I just get fewer shots. If we're
Yeah.
actually trying to improve and shoot lower scores, I'm your guy. But if that's the case, and again, now we're talking about players that are really trying to get to the next level, college golf, mini tour golf, professional golf, club championship. I want to win my club championship, whatever it is.
Hmm.
Post round, doing a 5 to 10 minute meditation, sit down, get your brain straight, and then just go through what we call the Tiger Five mistakes:
Hmm.
bogeys on par fives, doubles, three putts, bogey inside 150, and two chips. If you
Hmm.
go through those five mistakes and just think, was there anything in my gut telling me I wasn't committed? I need to make a different decision. Was there anything you could have done in real time different than what you did? And sometimes, like, no, just a really bad shot. Perfect. I'm not worried about those. But
Hmm.
what could we have done that was so like whenever I was playing mini tour golf, we'd go laugh about all the dumb stuff we did that day. Oh my God, I made a bogey with a gap wedge from 112, just yanked it straight left. Well, you know what? Was the pin three from the left? Could I have aimed 4 yards right of that flag, and then that
Hmm.
yank would have been in the left fringe instead of short-sided and dead? Yeah, I was aiming right at a flag from 112 with a decent wind. As crazy as that sounds, like your shot pattern's too big for that.
Hmm.
If you aim at flags and they're 3 or 4 from the edge from 112, you're going to make dumb bogeys.
Hmm.
And considering the scoring average from 100 yards in the fairway on tour is only 2.8, I don't need to make that many birdies. I just need to not give those away with silly bogeys.
Yeah.
You're going to magically make some birdies, again, assuming you've actually got the skills and whatever. And
Yeah.
so, really, that's where it just always circles back to avoiding bogey is way more important. It's way easier to do. It's way easier to avoid bogey on purpose than it is to make birdies.
Hmm.
And it impacts your score more.
Yeah.
I mean, it just literally impacts your score more.
So circling back to that, with sort of amateur golfers, because I'm imagining sort of the majority of people obviously that listen to this podcast are in that sort of amateur golfer range. Let's say from like a 10 to a 15 handicap, which one of those Tiger Five principles, if not obviously all of them do apply, but which one would you say is the biggest proponent of causing crazy scores to come out of nowhere of those Tiger
Well,
Five?
just because double's the highest over par, I'm going to go with doubles.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah,
they're all important. I mean, to their
yeah.
own little ability. I mean, as you get better, it's an interesting question. It's funny because I actually said recently I'm trying to pause more before just starting an answer. I watched somebody the other day give a podcast. They just kind of sat there and thought for a little bit. And I'm like, when you asked it, I'm like, I don't know the answer. Well, then don't start talking.
No, if I'm honest, Scott, as a podcast host, it's quite nice to not have big pauses.
Oh, I know.
It's
I trust me, I can
yeah,
appreciate that.
yeah. It's
Um,
always worrying when there's a big pause.
Yeah, they're all important. And again, I'm trying to, because what I'm trying to rationalize myself into saying is the bogey inside 150, or call it 130 for female players, or 130
Hmm.
for less experienced players. Uh, those bogeys are just you're 10 to 15, you're gonna make bogeys. And again, so it's always not no three putts. It's
Hmm.
not too many three putts. But I would say that for the 10 to 15, probably two chips
Yeah,
is
I
the
was gonna.
first thing that's easy to
Yeah,
eliminate. And then after that, three putts, but I'm going to put the caveat of three putting inside of 25 feet. You're going to three
okay.
putt a ton as a 12 from outside 25 feet. I don't really care. Bogey,
Yeah,
bogey doesn't kill you, whatever. It's the three putt from 16 feet because you went brain dead and hit it 5 feet by and missed it coming back.
yeah.
I mean, it's funny. I shouldn't jump on Shane Lowry right now. I should actually go see it first. But I was arguing all last week with people on YouTube and Instagram comments about what I was telling Rick about leaving putts short
Mm,
from 30 feet, from 20 feet, from 16 to 20 feet. Brad Faxon left 16% of his putt short, literally 1 in 6.
hmm.
Everyone's just, how are you going to make an 18 footer if you're leaving him short? We've got a normal distribution curve of putting, of speed control. So if I'm trying to hit one putt 20 feet, I'm probably going to hit it as a good player somewhere between 18 and 22 feet. If I center that shot pattern using my microphone, if I'm coming in from this direction, if I center it past the hole, I'm going to have a 4 footer coming back. And I've also centered most of my putts 2 feet past the hole. But if I leave 25% of my putts short, I've traded that 4 footer out for a 1 footer.
Hmm.
And I've now centered the majority of my putts just past the hole, which makes the hole as big as possible. Your
Yeah.
make rate by leaving 25% short does not drop. And that's what's so hard for people to wrap my head around because the back half of never leaving anything short didn't have much of a chance of going in because of lip outs.
Hmm.
I've only got this little percentage that can go in. I've made the percentage of putts that can fall huge.
Hmm.
So I've both optimized the length of my second putt. The reason I bring that up is Shane Lowry yesterday. He's on the last hole. He's got 20 feet 9 inches to win. He knocks it 6 feet past, misses it coming back. I'm like, there you go. That
Yeah.
6 footer had zero chance of going in.
Mhm.
But it also was really easy to three putt.
Yeah.
Like it's just amazing that that happened on the same week that I'm sitting here arguing about this in the comments. It's like, that's what I'm talking about.
It's that old sort of never up, never in sort of it just but then the like you said, the amount of ones that just go streaming past the hole and you're left with a shocking putt back up the hill that you're more than likely not gonna make, especially at a higher
Four,
higher handicap level, you know.
4 feet on the PGA Tour is 88%, but
Yeah,
that's 3 feet 1 inch to 4 feet.
yeah,
That's the 4 foot range. It's 88% on tour.
right. Yeah.
Like you knock something 4 feet by as a six, you
Mm.
got a really good chance of three putting. I mean, it's unfortunate, but that's the one where you're walking off and you're just kicking yourself like, nice three putt from 15 feet, donkey.
So with
Like
the with the two chips, because I was going to say to you, two chips was the one that really stood out to me. Is that something that happens because of, again, we get back to expectation of when you're, because I quite often will find that, the chip goes badly if you try and get cute with it. Now, is that because your expectation is that you're going to nestle it up next to the hole and be, just walking up with your wedge and knocking it in because, that's what you're looking to do? What kind
two
of,
chips.
yeah,
Good.
yeah.
Uh, Two
Go
chips
ahead,
really,
go
in my
ahead.
opinion, where they start becoming a problem is when you are, so this is this 1-to-1 ratio, meaning if a pin is 6 yards on a green and you're 6 yards off the green,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of just a chip shot.
Mm-hmm.
Anything inside, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 yards off the green and the pin's 6 yards on, it's just a chip. But once you go to like 8
Mm-hmm.
yards off and the pin is 6 yards on, now we're starting to hit kind of a flop shot. And
Mm-hmm.
those are the ones that the litmus test for me when I'm like, first thing that I look at on a chip shot. How many yards am I off? How many yards on is the pin?
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, it's 2-to-1. Boy, I'm in a bad spot here. Let's
Right.
first and foremost, don't screw this up. And I will literally look, if I do dump it, what's the rough like right there? Will
Mm-hmm.
this next shot be a really easy up and down? And I might get a little bit cuter personally there with
Okay.
trying to land it in the fringe because again, we've got a distance outcome there. So if I'm trying to land it, if I've got a shot I'm trying to land 8 yards, I might land it in a flop shot scenario. I might land it anywhere from 5 to 11. Like the window becomes pretty big if I'm hitting
Yep.
some sort of a flop shot. And so if I'm trying to land it 1 yard on the green and there's a decent chance I leave it 3 yards short, well, what is that next chip shot going to be like? And if
Mm-hmm.
it's not going to be good, dude, let's just don't make double here.
Mm-hmm.
This might be more of a problem with the second shot than I just don't have a good enough short game. And again, I played to a +5 last year. I'm decent at golf,
Yeah, yeah.
and I do not practice flop shots. I've got limited time. I
Mm-hmm.
want to master again. What Tiger technically tracked was no blown easy saves, and
Mm-hmm.
in order to quantify the data, I turned that into two chips for decade.
Mm-hmm.
And so my first and foremost thing is like, I don't want to mess up the easy saves. So when I practice, I want to practice the easy up and downs. And I'm so good now at carrying the ball 5-7 a line. Like my carry distances on basic chips is really good. So I'm pretty damn good on my easy chip shots.
Yep.
After that, man, if I get myself in a spot where this is a hard chip shot, let's just don't screw this up. Let's don't walk off with two chips and a double. There's two Tiger 5 points and
Yeah.
one bad decision.
So would you, in that scenario, say it's a tough chip shot, would you literally set your target as like a 25-foot putt would be left? I
Potentially,
mean, would you be happy with that, walking away with it?
potentially. Again, the thing that's hard with golf is you asked a specific question that I have to give a generic answer to.
Yeah, yeah.
But generically, yeah. I mean, so if I'm in a spot where like, dude, I do not want to leave it short, I might try to, let's say, again, that same scenario. I'm trying to land at 8 yards.
Mm-hmm.
So it might be anywhere from 5 to 11. I'm going to try to make sure my 5 yards is the fringe.
Mm-hmm.
If I land at the 8 I'm trying to, yeah, I've probably got 10 or 15 feet coming back. But again, by definition, I'm going to catch it on the top groove or a little bit fat or whatever every so often, and it's going to land in the fringe. I'm going to hit that miracle shot
Yeah,
and look really cool. And the key to golf is like when you do it, keep your mouth shut,
exactly.
see what happens, and then you can take credit for the good shot, even though it wasn't what you were trying to do. Like I literally hit one the other day playing in a scramble at the club, and I hit a shot and it was just so bad. I'm like, oh God, that's gross. And it just caught this perfect thing and spun. It went to like a foot. And I'm like,
Yeah.
boy, I would look really cool right now if I didn't say that was so gross. A
Just
lot of
keep your
good
head
golfers just
down.
keeping your,
Head
huh?
down.
I
Just little
mean,
one of those. Yeah, thank you.
I literally, as the ball was in midair, I was like, you have to be kidding me. And
I
then it
had the
just went
same
to,
thing. I had a terrible hole the other day and I ended up in the woods and I tried to get cute with a couple of shots and punch it out where I should have just taken my medicine. I get green side, I've got a chip for bogey and I land this chip probably about 5 foot past the point of where I'm looking at and it slams against the pin and goes in. And I just go, yeah, that's fine. That's what I
that's how
meant.
I was doing, baby.
That's how I drew that one up. No problem.
I
But
love it.
that is interesting for golf. It's just again that expectation. I think that's probably one key that all golfers, especially amateurs, can take away is just making sure your expectation aligns with your skill level and what your outcomes have been leading up to that point, right? Because we all want to play our best golf, but is it likely going to be your next shot is going to be your best you've ever played?
Yep. I mean,
Probably
again,
not.
it's the utopian view. It's like I say it all the time. Like I'm giving you utopian advice.
Yeah.
It's really, really hard to do. That doesn't mean we just don't try, but
Hmm.
somewhere between the lunatic we currently are and doing the utopian thing, we just want to keep moving that way. And
Yes. Yeah.
again, like I say this, and I actually do mean it. Like someone who's like this Buddhist monk is like enlightened and nothing bothers them. I actually feel like I'm enlightened on the golf course now. There's
Yeah.
times when I'm just like, and that US Open qualifier a couple weeks ago really tested that because I wanted to throw some F bombs out there as loud as I possibly could just to mess with the USGA people. Like, and it took all I did, but I didn't. But overall, I was just this sucks, but
Yeah.
it is what it is, man. And,
Yeah.
like I say, I shot 75. I missed by two, which was super frustrating.
Hmm.
But at the end of the day, also, I really didn't get overwhelmingly mad, considering, in my opinion, I had every single right to be.
Yeah. Yeah. It was unacceptable conditions, weren't it, at the end of the day, especially for something like that kind of sort of event. I saw on your video as well talked about with Rick Shields about wind as well, which I thought was a really interesting point, and I think it's all part of that process that we as golfers have to implement into our game, a process before every shot, but perhaps we miss different elements of it. Could you just explain to the listeners about the impact of wind on their golf shots? Because I think it's one of those things we all throw the grass up in the air and get direction, maybe, but what was it you explained about
Well,
about
that was
about
exactly
wind?
what Rick said. I asked him, we were playing into like a 10 or 15 mile an hour wind. Like it was pretty windy
Mm,
down in Florida. And, I think we were 190 maybe. And I was like, how do you assess the wind? And he said, well, I throw some grass up in the air. I feel it. I'm like, okay, cool. We got the
correct.
direction. Now, how do you determine how much it's going to impact you? And he's like, oh, it's just a total guess. You use the wind as a percentage. Now, I've actually never done the math to figure out. I don't know why it would be different because if we were in meters, it should still be the same because your starting denomination is meters and you're using the wind as a percentage. It should still work, but in
Mhm.
yards for sure,
We
you
still do
use.
yards. In the
Okay.
UK, still yards. We're
Okay.
yards.
Okay.
Europe
Fair enough.
Europe go with the meters, and it's too confusing. Yeah, yards
Yeah.
over here.
So let's say we're 150 yards and we're into a 10-mile an hour wind.
Yeah.
We guesstimate. So I've got a wind gauge literally that I bought off Amazon for like 35 bucks to hold it up and get really good at guessing what wind speeds there are.
Hmm.
So if I'm guesstimating it's 10 miles an hour, realistically, that means it's probably blowing somewhere between 5 and 13 or 14 miles an hour. Uh, and so now we use that as a percentage. So for 150 into a 10-mile an hour wind, 10% of 150 is 15 yards. That shot's playing about 165. And now you need to take in, like, so 165 for me is a perfect 7-iron. Well, I still wouldn't just be ripping a 7-iron. I would probably, I might try to flight it, but also I might take a 6-iron and try to hit it 165. So we want to
Hmm.
be playing this 165 shot. Where people got confused in that video with Rick is I said, let's call it 15. And so I said, I think we were 190. So 10% is 19. Five more makes it 27. What I meant more was 5% more.
Yeah.
And just use the fives and tens because the math is easy. We want to use, if we're using 5%, just do the math of 10% first and cut it in half. It's just an
Yeah.
easier way to do it, obviously. And then downwind, technically if it's blowing under five, you take like a third of it, and if it's blowing over 5 miles an hour, you just take half of the
Okay.
denomination.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think using just a little bit under half in all circumstances is fine. Downwind helps less than into the wind hurts.
Hmm.
And then crosswinds, if it's at 90 degrees, it really doesn't hurt it as much as you would think it does unless you're shaping it into the wind. So I
Yeah.
fade all of my shots. So it's going to impact that a little bit because it's just going to stand it up.
Yeah.
And then quartering into and quartering down, I mean, you literally just take like 10, maybe 20% of the number.
Hmm.
And once you're good at that, it sounds like a lot of thinking, which it is, but
Yeah.
playing great golf requires a lot of thinking, and we're just giving
Yeah.
you shortcuts. And it's so interesting because again, I don't play a whole lot of golf, and I definitely didn't play golf for 4 months while
Mm.
rehabbing for my knee surgery. And I'm just surprised sometimes you get out there and using something like Tour Read, which is kind of a math-based aim point system, you can get
Hmm.
your green reading pretty sharp, pretty quick.
Hmm.
Using this, you don't have to have the feel for the wind. You're just using it as a percentage, using Decade to help you pick your targets. I mean, there's a lot of the thinking that can just kind of go on autopilot even while not playing that much golf. And the other thing is just when I practice my chipping, I only practice, like I said earlier, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, 15 yard carry. So I'm only trying to carry at these numbers.
Hmm.
And obviously I pick which one I think fits the shot. But even after not hitting a chip shot for 4 months, the first time okay, sure, my contact was a little sketchy, but I was just shocked at how quickly I was able to just start hitting my numbers
Hmm.
that I was trying to carry the ball. So I mean, but then that's why I say like my game's actually a lot sharper than I would have expected after literally not touching a club for 4 months. I've been pretty surprised at how quickly I've been able to get it back. So it's just using all these little tricks to eliminate that experience necessity that's usually required to play good golf.
Which is sort of music to the ears to most weekend golfers, right? Because they're they're not practicing every day or a few times a week. They're literally going out and playing at the weekend and sort of picking up where they went off. So in many ways, like you said, eliminating yourself out of the equation by using these systems in place really can help and sort of hone in sort of your game, which is kind of what everyone's looking for,
Well,
right?
the question is like, do you think, with all due arrogance, like I'm pretty good at golf and I'm a really good caddy. I've had anyone I've ever caddied for has been had a very successful week that week. The few tour players I've gone out with, obviously Zalatoris, a couple of different buddies in USGA qualifiers. If you can agree that if I went out and caddied for you,
Hmm.
you would probably play better than you normally do. The whole goal of Decade is to get my brain inside of you as quickly and efficiently as possible.
That's
The
creepy,
best
Scott.
analogy I've come up with is, yeah, back after I had COVID for the first time, my blood pressure got super wonky. It could just be anything on any given morning.
Hmm.
I had at least 20 different cardiologists, EKGs, echo scans, listened to far too many podcasts with Peter Attia and Huberman. Now, I went from a 36 handicap cardiologist to I'm a scratch. If you
Yeah.
gave me blood work, I could prescribe you meds. Would you want me cutting you open? Well, no, you still don't want that. But because of the learning curve afforded us by all of this information and podcasts and just everything, you can become really good at your craft. Now, you're not going to be a professional at it.
Hmm.
But again, with anything, if you get out there and find the right people to follow and learn from, I mean, it's like a mentor. Is Tony Robbins? I've never met the guy, but I would consider him a mentor because of YouTube and videos and
Hmm.
podcasts and everything else. Like that's the goal is to find mentors all around the world in any specific genre
Yeah.
and let them do the bulk of the heavy lifting with any subject you're wanting to learn. Learn from their mistakes, man. Trust me, I've done enough dumb stuff over 51 years in golf. You don't have to do it, man.
Take a decade off.
I mean, decade is literally, I've just joked by saying it sometimes, but it's just at this point, a diary of all the dumb stuff I used to do, so you don't have to.
So with that, you talked to obviously the Tiger Five. Tiger's sort of like ability to eliminate mistakes from his round and to use that as a system. When you look at the tour now, is there a player that sort of defies the laws in some ways? I know that can be like a difficult thing to look at, but like someone that just it
I mean,
doesn't make
Rory, what he just did
sense.
at the, I
That's
mean,
also that's such a leading question, but yeah, that's what I was
I
gonna.
mean, the guy, Tiger was trying to have six total Tiger five mistakes to win on the PGA Tour. When I
Hmm.
just played in Champions Tour qualifying, I finished eighth at first stage with a 71 scoring average. I missed getting status at final stage by three, so it was solid golf. I had 20 Tiger five mistakes in 8 rounds, so I had two and a half per round. Rory had 16 at the Masters and won. Like, I can't wrap my head around how it's possible to make that many mistakes, like the simple mistakes too. And again, I'm
Yeah,
not
yeah.
on Team Fire Harry. I think you can't put a price tag on the value of having a buddy on the
Mm,
bag for you out there. So when people are like, Fire Harry, get a real caddy, like, no, 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 no.
mm,
But yeah, let's maybe make some different decisions somewhere along the way. And this is where Rory's just so good. He can get himself out of so many spots. And it's like, would you take Rory's career? Well, there's not a player on tour right now that wouldn't.
hmm.
And it's like, but we could be better. I mean, again, that's circling back to, I'm not going to mention who it was, but we were a really good driver of the golf ball. We were talking about Rory a couple weeks ago. And he's like, there's no doubt in my mind he would be better if he would stop trying to work it so much. So here's a guy that's already the best driver on the planet.
Hmm.
And there's no doubt he'd be better if he stopped trying to work it both ways.
Wow.
I mean, there's just literally no doubt. And it's so
Yeah.
obvious and so straightforward. But the problem with Rory is when I've seen him in the past be like, I'm going to hit only a fade. Okay. Did you get another driver made? Because the one you've got is fit for a draw. That's the reason you can't work it. The driver's the
Yeah.
only club in the bag that's been fit for a specific shape.
Hmm.
So if you try to work it the other way, it's either going to be a knuckleball or spinny. Like by definition, it's going to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so
I think
I
that because I was sort of like after the win and everything, like obviously you'd never take away from him. He won that tournament with his best mate on the bag. And but I still have this nagging feeling in my head that like, but how many more tournaments would he win with somebody that just maybe now it was brought up to me that perhaps Rory's not the type of guy who would listen, and that's fine. But I just feel like if there was someone who just took a certain club sometimes and said, this is the play. And he had full confidence in them as a good caddy. And I think good caddies are many different things. And like you said, it's got to be someone that you enjoy spending time with because you're out there for an incredibly long period of time. But it's also got to be someone that knows when to step in. And I just worry, and I say worry, I mean the guy's won a career Grand Slam now, but we in golf you want to see history, don't you? You want to see these things happen. And Rory has a chance now to go on a run. I just there is a part of me which, I don't want to be that guy, but I'm gonna be that I do worry that Harry just doesn't quite have that little extra, which is
Tiger was in
gonna,
the middle of a swing in the US Open or British Open, middle of the swing, and Steve Williams goes, Stop,
yeah,
wrong club, change club, and he was right.
yeah.
Harry's not doing that. And I don't even,
Mm,
again, I don't want this to come across as that. I just think, hey man, let's sit down, let's talk through some situations where we can make some better decisions. I agree with what you're saying. Like, would Rory even listen? Who knows? But
yeah,
also,
yeah.
it's like, Rory, how do you feel about your career? Do you feel like you could have done better? And if you
Hmm.
don't, like, dude, I'm doing pretty good. Like, I agree.
Yeah.
But Tiger fired Fluff for whatever reason.
Hmm.
Tiger hired Steve Williams. It took them a month or two to settle in. I do believe that that's when they were figuring out the Tiger Five, and Steve just took him by the ears and was like, "This is how it works, man." I
Hmm.
mean, people can make fun of caddies all they want. There's a reason a guy like Steve Williams, everyone he looped for, played well. My old roommate's a guy named Lance Bennett. He's caddying for Tiger right now.
Okay.
Lorena Ochoa, Kuchar, like these guys that are good caddies are great caddies. They
Hmm.
know exactly what they're doing. They know the right thing to say and when to say it and when not to. That's why Zalatoris and I worked so well together for 5 years. I mean, I caddied for him for at least 100 rounds his last, through college in the summer times. And he respected me enough, and God bless him, he was mature enough to be like, I don't know everything. I'm going to listen to this guy.
Hmm.
One of the funniest interview quotes after he won the U.S. Junior was, "My God, you and your caddy sure do seem to talk a lot." It's like, yeah, man, we're really thinking through this shot and how to hit
Yep.
it and what we want to accomplish here. And hey, did you notice we won?
Yeah.
Like, there's
Yeah.
the flag. I promise we won. And it's like, there's something to this, man. There's just something to understanding what we're trying to accomplish on the golf course. And that is make the best decisions that are going to lead to the best score, that are going to lead us to the best opportunity to win a certain amount of tournaments over a series of 100 events. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
way it works.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's been the thing, hasn't it? With the whole debate, and I don't think it will ever change with Rory and Harry. I think, and it is a wonderful thing. Like, I mean, seeing them win together is, yeah, it's fantastic. But like you said, I think any other weekend, Rory's not winning that golf tournament.
No,
Someone's making less mistakes, and I mean,
no.
Justin Rose put in an unbelievable final day. And the way he walked up to that playoff hole, I thought this isn't how Rory's not winning it this year. Like Rosie looked dialed in for it, and he played a great hole. It's just Rory did Rory things and won the
Well, I
golf
mean,
tournament, right?
the shot on 18 in the final round, it's like it, it didn't look like he hit a bad shot. The swing wasn't
Mm,
one-armed. It was a gap wedge from 120. Like that ball cannot land 3 or 4 yards into the bunker. There's no doubt in my mind that 18 green at Augusta is about 18 yards wide, and we all
hmm.
know there's kind of a catcher's mitt on the right hand side. There's no doubt in my mind he's trying to land that right of the center of the green to use that little swale to bring it back to the right spot.
Yep.
There's just no way that swing and shot with that club can be that far right. I don't believe it. I'd be stunned if he couldn't say, yeah, I was aiming like 3 yards right of the center of the green. That shot should be aimed at the dead center of the green 100% of the time directionally.
Hmm.
So he's got about 18 yards of width to work with, which he's never missing. And then I kind of did the math. He's got about 15 or 16 yards of distance control. So we've got like an 18, 15 foot or 15 yard just circle that like Rory's never missing that. I
Yeah.
mean, if he's trying to hit it in the dead center of that circle, he's never missing that. And it's just unfortunate because he got pretty lucky, to be perfectly honest. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
pretty lucky to get away with it.
Oh, to hit that bunker, like to be in that bunker in that position at that time was just like, oh, I
I
mean,
mean, again, I'm a huge Rory fan. Like it was painful. I mean,
oh, it's
it
so
was
bad.
painful. I really like his swing. I like him.
Yeah.
Like it was pretty incredible to watch it unfolding almost exactly the way you expected it to until the second he actually won.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that is Rory. That is Rory, though, isn't it? And I guess if you took that away from Rory, if Rory became a little bit more systematic with his approach, he spoke of how he wanted to become a little bit more like Scotty this year, didn't he? And I guess if you take that away from Rory, then is he Rory McIlroy in some ways? He probably wins way more golf tournaments, though, right? That's sort of
What
you
was
know.
really interesting is I don't remember what the first US Open or whatever it was at Aaron Hills, like 2015, 16,
Hmm.
might have been 17. I don't remember which year that was. Um, but it was the first time that I had gone to a major to just kind of work with players and walk around. And I was actually going up there to walk with Max Grazerman, Cameron Champ, two
Hmm.
amateurs at the time, because Max was still at Duke and Cameron was at Texas A&M where I went, and we played a practice round with Rory. Uh, and first of all, in the first tee, the other player that was in the group was Walker Lee, another kid that played for A&M. He was a freshman that had
Hmm.
qualified, and this was incredible. So the four of them are standing on the tee of the practice round, and right as the people start the announcers coming in next on the tee, and they just named the four. but they don't say like in the order. And so they announced the four, and Walker Lee, who's just like he was a pretty small guy at the time. He just kind of started slinking backwards. And Rory had his driver standing there, and he just pulled it around him and just kind of grabbed him and just pushed him right on out, like, dude, you're first. It was so amazing to watch because
Yeah.
Walker was definitely just like, what am I doing here? And Rory's
Yeah.
like, it's time, buddy. Let's see it. Um, but anyways, that wasn't the point. Rory was paying attention to what I was telling them. It's not like he was getting anything out of it, but it was the first time I'd actually seen anyone use my work in an interview because they were asking that remember they cut the rough down, like they had really tall rough that was
Hmm.
65 yards across and they moved it to 80 like the night before the tournament started. And they asked him afterwards, after the first round, they're like, what do you think of that? He's like, I mean, I don't understand why they did that. There were 65 yards across on every single hole. And I was like, you got that from me. And I was just like, dang it, man, if you would just have listened a little bit more,
Yeah.
you might have gotten especially with the driver, man. It's just frustrating watching him hit double crosses and
Yeah.
just lose tournaments sometimes because of it.
Yeah, because you look at someone like Bryson just hitting he hits the drive so straight now, like because he just set up for that stock shape, which is that
That
there's a
just
little bit
draw
of a
all day
tiny
long.
draw on it, right? But like not trying to hit raking draws, is he? And
Well, and that was
it's
the
on.
PGA Championship that Morikawa won. He got
Hmm.
up and tried to hit too many fades, and that
Hmm.
was the first thing I told Como. I'm like, dude, he needs to just be drawing that thing. He needs to never try to fade that club. If it doesn't fit the hole, he needs to drop back to three wood. So that
Yeah.
was the main thing that they were focusing on heading into Winged Foot. And
Hmm.
what's funny is there's a couple holes. I think it was 2 and 8 maybe that are dog legs right,
Hmm.
and he got up there and still tried to hit. Okay, I'm going to hit a draw, but I'm going to hit it with driver. I'm like, no, this is three wood, and those were the only two holes that he hit bad drives on. Literally
Yeah.
the two dog leg rights that he refused to drop back to three wood, but he did stick with. Okay, well, I'm going to hit a draw. They were the only shots that he hit poorly off the tee the entire week, and it's just so hard because these guys are so good. They really
Mm.
can hit any shot, but it's just the simple fact that the driver's just not built for it. And since you can't
Hmm.
move ball position around with driver, you can't artificially shift your path around. And with a three wood, I can move it back in my stance and artificially move path to the right
Hmm.
because I'm going to hitting down on it and more to the right. But with driver, there's not enough loft to move ball position. And
Yeah.
as a result, your path, you're going to actually have to move it like 6 degrees from three in to three out or vice versa, only by changing your swing.
Hmm.
That's a really hard thing to do at 120 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And that's where double crosses come from. I
Yes.
mean,
Yeah.
it's just literally that straightforward.
And I think I was going to say to you, I think the decade system sometimes gets unfairly sort of summarized into hit driver, find it, hit wedge. And I think the hole that people point to and completely unfairly as well is probably number three at Augusta, right? Because they're
Yeah.
saying why would you hit driver here? Because you're leaving yourself possibly short-sided to pins and you've got tricky shot on a slope. And I saw your explanation of why driver is always the play for those guys at Augusta. So you want to just fill people in on that.
First of all, the scoring average is over par on that hole.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what people are like, how are you going to make birdie? Like, let's secure a four
Yeah,
first.
don't worry about it.
Yeah, I mean, that just let's get a four first and maybe we'll miss it close. But sure, the chip shot from down there short left is really difficult. So we're just talking solely about the Sunday pin on the front left down there.
Hmm.
It's 11 yards deep. That little finger over there is 11 yards deep for distance control. If there's no wind, that's not a whole lot of tolerance for your distance control, considering if you land it in the back yard or two, it's probably going to skip long. If you land it in the front yard or two, it might spin right back down. So you've got about 5 yards to work with there. Excuse me. If you lay up to 100 yards, that is exactly between the bunker and the trees. It's 24 yards across from the bunker
Hmm.
to the tree. So if you're going to lay up, like the one old adage in golf is if you're going to lay up, lay up.
Yeah,
So if
yeah.
you're going
Do
to
it
lay up
properly.
on that hole, you really need to leave it short of the bunkers, which means you're going to leave yourself like 130 or more into the green. And well, that's just a really long shot, especially then if, I mean, in dead calm, That's
Mm.
not much distance control tolerance.
Mhm.
If once there's any wind, the subtle variance in wind, like think about that percentage we were just giving. If
Yeah.
it lays down from 8 miles an hour to 4, that's 4 miles an hour of difference at 4% on a 130-yard shot. That's 5 yards you were wrong in your distance control just because of the fluctuations in the wind.
Wow.
And so it's just, you just have to hit. I mean, there's just certain spots where you just have to hit driver, and it might leave you in a really weird spot, and then you reassess. The
Yeah.
key to all of golf off the tee is I want you feeling like you're playing very aggressive, but in order to do that, you also have to be very objective to be able to say, like, didn't work out. I'm out of position here. What's the Tiger 5 mistake that's in play here? Three putts? No. Two chips? No. Double? Maybe. Bogey
Hmm.
on a par 5? Well, this is a par 4. It's
Hmm.
bogey inside 150. What do I need to do to make sure that doesn't happen first and foremost?
Hmm.
And that's going to be, let's get this thing more to the middle of the green. Okay, I'm in a really bad spot in the trees. Well, the Tiger 5 mistake that's in play is double. Let's make sure we get this thing out of the trees down there to 80 yards. Sure, I could try to squeeze it up to 50 yards, but like the difference in 80 and 50 is not that big of a deal if
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
ever going to hit the trees and leave in the trees.
Hmm.
Again, let's get it out and back in position in one shot, and then now we can reassess again.
Hmm.
Like the game is constantly, it's like poker. I mean, it really is. Decade is entirely based on poker math and mindset.
Hmm.
So I've got pocket aces. There's four people to the flop. The flop comes out a bunch of middle cards, 8, 10, queen, and fireworks go off in front of you. Your aces are not good anymore. We have more information, and three people have just shown interest in this pot. Sucks for you, but time to fold those.
Yeah.
That's what golf is. You have to learn to fold and just say, on the tee, this was a reachable par 5. It's not anymore. How do I not make a bogey on a par 5 here? And reassess and
Yeah.
reassess and reassess. That's the
That's
key
the
to
key.
golf.
And with that comes obviously targets as well. I've seen you talk about this. I always had the adage that you play aggressively to conservative targets. Would that be something you would agree with?
I just don't like the words aggressive and conservative because they're just too emotional.
I
I mean,
thought you might
seriously,
have an
like,
issue with that.
yeah, I mean, I would say I want you to play aggressively to optimal math-based targets.
Okay.
Now,
Yep.
people will think those targets are conservative when I tell you what they are,
Hmm.
but it's by definition, it's not conservative, it's optimal.
Hmm.
The conservative would be suboptimal, just like aggressive is suboptimal. That's where I thought you were going to go earlier. Like one of the main criticisms I get with Decade is, oh, so just bang driver and then hit it at the middle of the green.
Hmm.
I've never once said those words in my life. We want to pick our target based on the constraints of the shot. How long is the shot? What's the surrounding hazards? What are the course conditions? What are the weather conditions? That's it. We want to analyze those four inputs, and that's what the A of Decade is analyze.
Hmm.
Those are the four constraints we want to analyze. If you are on number 18 at St. Andrews, the green is 52 yards wide. You hit a decent drive down there to 70 yards. Do you think I would ever tell you middle of the green? No, we're going to go probably directly at wherever the flag is.
Hmm.
Number 10 at Pebble Beach, the green is 17 yards wide. We're going to have about 180. Middle of the green on that hole is also terrible advice because you need to be aiming almost at the left edge of the green.
Hmm.
I mean, it's just because golf is the only sport that's not played on a uniform field of competition. It's the only sport in the world that they're just again, I wish there was, but there's just no generic advice that's good enough. You know, if I'm playing basketball and I'm at the top of the key, I mean, I'm telling my coach I was at the top of the key, the guard switched on to me, this happened. Like you can kind of tell in your head if you understand basketball
Hmm.
what I'm saying.
Hmm.
But if I just tell you on, hey, on number one, I was 147, should I fire at the flag? I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
You need more
That
information, man.
was
And
going to be my
that's
next
again,
question, but never mind.
yeah, I mean, that's the challenge of golf, really,
Yeah.
honestly. That's the challenge of golf is it's really difficult. Golf is also the only sport in the world that's not taught on the field of competition.
Yeah.
The analogy for that is going out and getting a tennis lesson on your serve in a parking lot and then showing up at a match and be like, wait a second, there's a service box and a net? We
Yeah.
didn't tell me that. I thought we were just hammering away at it. And that really sounds like a silly analogy. That is a perfect analogy for how
Hmm.
golf is taught on a driving range.
Yeah,
Hit it that way.
yeah, yeah,
I mean,
yeah. Yeah, you can't learn golf on a driving range. You can learn swing. You can't learn golf on a driving range. It's just,
nope.
which is a real shame because that'd be quite a good golfer otherwise if it was.
Well, and that's, I get parents all the time that tell me like their instructor isn't getting out on the course enough with their junior. And I'm like, well, did you pay him twice his hourly rate? Because it takes 2 hours to go around 9 holes. And the sad part about it is nothing really interesting happens in 9 holes, anyways. I mean,
Mm,
you might get a situation or two over the course of 2 hours, and maybe the assistant pro that's giving a course management lesson doesn't have a clue what they're talking about, anyways.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, I really, I really do. I always hate feeling salesy, but the best place to learn course management is actually in video. And I
Hmm.
never would have come up with that idea until the SMU coach asked me if I could put this together for an indoor seminar. I went out and bought a drone in 2014. I probably was the first guy that bought a drone for
Wow.
use in golf. But it's like, as we were doing this seminar in SMU's athletics office, I was just like, this is the place to do it. We just
Hmm.
brought in Chipotle, everybody's eating. We're not emotionally tied to the outcome. We're just sitting here talking strategy and situations, and nobody's worrying about their swing. Nobody's embarrassed because they've made a few bogeys already. Everybody's just here actually listening. I really do believe that learning course management indoors is by far the best way to learn how to play golf. And I know
Hmm.
that's a really, really strange thing to say.
No, I think it goes back to the point we made earlier, didn't it? Of if something's hard to do and you're not going to particularly enjoy it, it's going to be good for you. And the idea of someone sitting down and almost having a theory about golf, sort of doing a theory test like we'd have over here, of just that's the part of physical education you don't want to do. You just want to go out and play, but you've got to sit down and think about it. You've got to meditate on it, and you've got to try and work out a way of implementing that when you're out on the golf course, having a thought pattern which sets you up in a correct way, which is not easy, is it?
And while I do agree with you when you say that the driving range is the place to learn to swing, I do believe that slowing down when you practice on the driving range to
Yeah.
really ingrain that mental chatter that's going on in your head and recognizing, man, I'm never standing over a shot on the range and thinking, don't go left. Now I get
Hmm.
out there on the first hole and there's OB left and I start thinking, don't go left. You'll
Mm,
start to recognize the slower and more conscious you are in practice of what you're doing. You'll then start to notice those outlier thoughts when you're actually out there playing,
mm,
which will allow you to recognize them before you dwell on them and
mm,
give them more power than they actually have. Like,
mm.
that's probably not a very helpful thought. I mean, again, like that's what half the video with Rick Shields is like that help. Is that thought useful?
Mm.
Not really. Then I'd probably stop thinking it.
Yeah, and he played his best golf I think I've probably ever seen him play. Was he three
Well, and
under
that's what
through
was
nine?
funny is half the comments, any of the negative comments were just, well, sure, if you get a guy to make a bunch of putts, he's going to shoot under par. And I'm like, did you not notice he was going to hit 3 wood off of one? I got him to hit driver.
Mm,
He was saying something extremely negative as he was walking into his second shot. I got him to clean that up. On two, he was going to hit 6 iron. I illustrated him why we're going to hit 5 iron. On three, he was going to aim 20 yards further. Like, I basically changed every single shot he was planning to hit out there.
hmm.
So, like, yeah, he made some putts, but to just discount what we did is insane to me. Is
Yeah,
like, you can just watch us and hear us changing what he's doing and thinking out there. And like you said, it was the best 9 holes he's ever filmed.
yeah.
That's not a coincidence.
And not only that, but if he doesn't hold I mean, what did he? He only hold two
He made
long putts.
a couple of, he made a nice 15 footer, a 10 footer. Um, I feel like he made another 15 footer somewhere in there.
Okay, yeah, but even if
It
he's
was a
not
good,
doing
it
that,
was a
so
good putting nine. There's no doubt about that. It was a good putting nine.
exactly. But even if he doesn't, say law of averages, he's not going to make those putts again. If he puts back on the green, he's still walking away even par through nine. That's probably still one of the better nines that Rich Shields has had in a long time in
But
YouTube
also, if you're
videos.
going to take away the good, you also have to give us a little credit to potentially take away the bad. I did not
Yeah.
realize how bad his wedge game is from 70. Had I known
Yeah,
that, I would have given him a totally different shot on the par five. He made a
yeah,
six on a par five from 70 yards.
Hmm.
So sure, maybe he didn't putt so well, but if I had known how bad the wedges really are, we would have done something totally different on
Given
that
a
hole.
different target. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Different
Aim
target,
away
different
from that
club. I
pin.
mean, everything about it. That, well, it's again, it's what I'm saying in the video. I'm like, this is the worst pin possible for you on this shot. And so
Yeah,
sometimes for me, this is a bad area. I'm just going to surrender and try to live to fight another day here. I mean, and
yeah,
surrendering would be hitting it 20 or 30 feet from 70 yards as your intention. Like I'm intending on hitting this thing over there.
yeah. It's interesting because I've got a golf trip this weekend. We're going up and playing the same course 3 days in a row, which is going to be really exciting. And I'm going to try and implement some decade golf into it, and to try and make sure that I'm making good decisions out on the golf course. So I'm
I
a
love it.
I'm a third I'm a 13 handicapper. What would be, I know we got the Tiger Five principles. So what would be just a short sort of summary of what I need to make sure that I'm doing? I know that's very difficult to do, to try and encapsulate it, but just for listeners that might be in like a similar situation, as far as what would be the number one, two, and three things you would say, the top three things to
Well, I'm
try
going
and
to
make
approach
sure.
this from how would I tell you to prepare for it?
Okay,
I
let's
would
do that.
work on
Yeah.
your driver and working on one shape. I think
Yep.
that's an obvious one. So
Okay.
just when you're practicing, really getting focused in on what's your preferred shape.
Yep. So my usual go-to shape is a fade with the
Yeah,
driver,
I would just focus on hitting some balls with that.
because I
I
hook a
would
I
then
hook
go
a
do
draw. I hook a draw otherwise, so
yeah,
that's no good.
I would then go focus on speed control from 20 to 40 feet because you're
Yep.
going to find yourself in that zone, whether it's for par or birdie, all day long and getting
Hmm.
really good at tapping in. It's if your line is bad with your putting, like that takes years to fix your stroke. But if
Hmm.
your speed control is bad and your stroke is decent, like you can really improve quickly from 20 to 40 feet. And what you want to be doing is trying to roll it into like a 10-ish% window. So let's say
Yes.
as a
Yeah.
13, I would tell you to go out there and set up a coin and then put another coin at 2.5 feet and another coin at 5 feet.
Hmm.
And I would tell you from like 20 to 30 feet, try to roll it between the first and the second coin. So like a 2.5 foot window,
Hmm.
maybe even three. And then once you get to 30 feet, so just start at 20 and just try to roll it into that window and just kind of keep backing yourself up like 6 or 9 inches every putt. Just
Yep.
rolling them, just trying to roll them into that zone, a relatively flat-ish putt directionally and slope-wise. And then
Yep.
once you get to 30 feet, try to roll it into the 5 foot window.
Hmm.
I would do speed drills like that. I mean, as boring as that sounds, I would do that for 20 or 30 minutes every day.
Yep.
And then with your chip shots, I would just go practice carrying the ball 5, 7, 10 yards. Just get
Yep.
really good at trying to hit these basic carry numbers.
Yep.
And then, I mean, honestly, that's about it. You're not going to fix your iron game very much in
My
4 days.
irons are my strongest part of my game, so I'm okay with that. That's like,
Yeah,
you
I
know,
mean,
I'm not going to sort of come here with Rick Shields' confidence of I'm the greatest iron player in the
yeah,
world, but that's the part I feel more comfortable with. So driver, pick a shape,
20.
hit it over and over and over again, right? Just get
Yep,
comfortable with it. Making sure that putting, you set a target at two and
20 to
between,
40 feet.
yeah, 20 to 40 feet, a 2.5 foot target, and then a target out of 5 foot, get it in between the first two for the 20 foot putt, and then 30
Yep,
feet plus, get it to the second one, and then chip in 5, 7, 9, 11. Yeah, is that right?
yep. I mean,
Okay.
and again, because it's like it's funny because like that would have been my answer before understanding the Tiger Five, and now
Yeah.
after, I mean, again, like well, what's funny is my buddy that I just told you, my old roommate that now caddies for Tiger, he was caddying for Kuchar, for 7 or 8 years when Kuchar was really rolling, just top fiving like every week. It felt like he was caddying for him, and we met for lunch one day. And just kind of went through everything because like this was 2016 probably, so still very new in the decade infancy. And he was just like, man, this sounds exactly like the 5 things that Tiger tracked. And I was like, okay. And he told me about it. And I just kind of filed it away. And then I was talking with another caddy out there, and he said the same thing. And I was like, that's interesting. And then talking with another caddier player, and they said the same thing. Because I was thinking I didn't want to get my buddy Lance in trouble for telling me like some secret
Yeah.
of Tigers.
Secret.
I mean,
Yeah.
he's my old roommate. I didn't want to get this guy in trouble. But then other people had told me the same thing, like I'm the first guy that came out in the public with it, however many years ago, calling it the Tiger Five.
Mm.
Um, and it's funny because like you see guys like Smiley and other people on their podcast talking about, well, Tiger used to have these five, and like, yeah, Smiley, I'm the one that told you about them at TPC San Antonio when we
Just not
walked a
giving you
practice
any
round
credit.
together. No, because he literally said another player, and I'm like, what another player, dude? It was me. And it's just so interesting because like I say, I really hate boiling it down to that.
Yeah.
But really, when you're out there, those are the mistakes. Like my canned joke is just if you feel like you should have shot lower every time you play, which we all do, even on your best
Mm.
rounds, you're either not as good as you think you are, or you made mental and strategic mistakes. Like literally, it cannot be anything else. And so after your round, when you think I should have shot lower, was it one of those five things? And if it wasn't, you're kidding yourself.
Yeah.
Like, but
Yeah.
those are the five things that we want to be recognizing in real time before the mistake occurs. What is in play right here? And goal number one is avoid that.
Yes. Yeah.
And you just really have to trust that the birdies are going to magically be there. And the biggest hurdle for most people is just understanding your scoring average. As your scoring average drops from 79 to 76, 82% of those three shots improvement is from bogey and higher avoidance.
Well,
As your
yeah.
scoring average drops from 76 to 73, those three shots, 75% of that is from bogey and higher avoidance. So as you're getting, anything above 80, like basically 95% is avoiding bogeys because you don't make any
Yeah. Yeah.
birdies.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even once you get down to 73 to 70,
Hmm.
68% of that improvement is from bogey and higher avoidance.
Well,
And so it's just like, man, this entire game is about figuring out how to not make the silly bogeys.
yeah. Yeah. I think that's for listeners that weren't familiar with Decade and those that were, I think it's like fascinating. Listen, I know I've really enjoyed it because it's just refreshed my memory because I'll watch a video with you in and I'll be like, Scott just made a lot of sense again. And then I'll go and play golf and that usual thing
I don't
of,
need that information.
oh, well, I could just, pin seek some shots, but
It's
it's very
honestly, that's why I
important
don't
that,
do that. That's
yeah,
just why I don't do one-on-one work. Because I literally
yeah,
feel like I would have the same conversation 8 times a day.
yeah,
And I'm just like, I can't do it.
no,
Go listen to some podcasts, go watch some videos in the Decade app. That's what I would tell you. You
yeah,
can pay
yeah,
me a bunch of money to work with you one-on-one, but I couldn't physically handle having the same conversation all day, every day.
no, that would, I think that would turn you into a maniac. So I don't blame you on that one, Scott.
Even more
So
so. I'm already a maniac.
I'm not saying anything. So, um, what's next for you with Decade? Because obviously Decade at this point sort of speaks for itself, and obviously you've got people signing up to Decade to learn the system and then to implement it into their game. Is there any like, I guess at this point, do you just continue to collect data and add it into your sort of like equations that you make, or is it a case of have you got something that you're working on behind the scenes to continue to evolve it?
Well, the math is done. It's like, did we need to keep on
Mm,
reinventing 5 + 5 = 10? Like, no,
mm,
none of that's changing. We do just constantly try to keep making the app better. I mean, full transparency, we're not a Silicon Valley company that knows what the heck we're doing. We're two dudes making an app. And so the app, when you get it, there's about 4 hours of tutorial content that teaches you Decade and everything. And then you start tracking your statistics in the app. And
mm,
then the program will find little 5 minute video clips that we've created. We've got a library of a couple hundred videos that it will then find the video that is going to help you most based on your stats. Your question of like, what's next? We're literally in the finishing stages right now where we've got this guy who is from Silicon Valley who's built this basically a large language model like a chat GPT where it's
mm-hmm.
ingesting all of the Decade videos and
Wow.
then it's just going to make it an extraordinarily searchable index. So Tiger five bogey par five, and it's going to bring up 20 clips, time stamped right to the spot. So really, at this point, it's kind of like when we first built the app, it was videos and strategy. Then we
Hmm.
added in the driving targets feature, then the free yardage books, then whatever the next iteration was, the combines. And so
Hmm.
we keep on adding to just make it more functional. But as you do that, it becomes more confusing, like how to
Hmm.
use the app correctly. So now we're just trying to make that as tidy as possible.
Just optimization at this point with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, it shows you got a great product. If it, it
I,
doesn't need mass change, right? I mean, you're doing something right.
I hate saying it because it's my product, but it is really, really good for what it's supposed to do. It does it great. And the Arcos, the Up Game, all the other stats apps, again, with all due respect to them, they have
Hmm.
no clue what they're talking about with strategy. You've got a bunch of data nerds who are like six handicaps, and they make a bunch of really basic, poor deductions because they just don't have the experience to know like, oh, this is how that works, or this is how that works. Like, I understand the data saying this, but this is what's really important. And so
Yeah.
just nobody teaches strategy correctly, even though most of them are trying to just copy Decade
Hmm.
and just slightly name it something different. They still do a terrible job of that.
Well, long may they continue. At the end of the day,
Exactly.
Scott.
Welcome to my life.
Well, listen, Scott, I just want to thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. I really, really do appreciate it. Um,
Absolutely.
I think it's been brilliant hearing your stories. I know there are so many more stories in there as well that I probably even we haven't scratched the surface of, but nonetheless, it's been eye-opening and quite timely as well for me, especially with this trip coming
Yeah,
up where I've got to bring the points home for my team. So um, I'm
I love
I'm
it.
I'm looking forward to implementing it. So I really do appreciate it,
Sounds
Scott.
fun. Especially if you're saying you got to bring the points home for your team. Sounds like a nice big guys trip. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, we got Team Tiger versus Team Bear. So yeah, I'm Team Tiger captain. We're
Nice.
doing Ryder Cup format, so foursomes, four ball for the first 2 days. We're doing both of those on each day, and then singles on the Sunday. But we're doing it where every hole is a point. That's our little change up, which I got from um which I got from the podcast actually. Someone said to me about that. I'm pretty sure it was Willis from the podcast said about every hole is a point. So every match goes the full 18.
Nice.
Um
Yeah.
yeah, so
I definitely like that. When you're just out playing, having fun, like figuring out a way to not have someone get eight and sixed.
yeah. Yeah, just trying to 10 and 8 guys out there is not it's not actually and the idea is you're going to play 36 holes of golf a day and you want to do that. So that's the goal and hopefully I can use Decade to help me do that. So I appreciate it,
Awesome.
Scott.
Awesome.
Thank you so
Thanks for
much.
having me on.